The presidential candidate of the Labour Party in the 2023 election has condemned the repeated harassment of journalists in Nigeria by authorities, warning that the country risks descending into a banana republic where journalists are silenced or disappear for simply doing their jobs. Reacting to the recent disappearance of whistleblower PIDOM Nigeria, Obi expressed concern over the alarming trend of government agents suppressing information unrelated to national security or interest. He emphasized the urgent need for the Freedom of Information Bill to safeguard press freedom. Obi further stated that the disappearance and detention of the whistleblower raised serious concerns and called on Nigerian authorities to be held accountable for his whereabouts and any alleged wrongdoing. And now to discuss this, we're joined by public affairs analyst Dotun Ojon. Dotun, thank you so much for coming on. This caution by the former presidential candidate Peter Obi. What implications do you think this caution about Nigeria's democratic journey have for the country's political landscape?
Okay, the essence of democracy is to have people express themselves as constantly as possible within the limit of what the law permits. You see, in the theory of communication, we talk about the libertarian theory of the press that gives the press the freedom to actually report whatever it is that they consider right. But just after the libertarian theory is the social responsibility theory, which put responsibility on the media to only report things that they know are right and can actually aid the development of the community. So we are in democracy, and we expect that the government of the day will give the media an opportunity to do their responsibility. And of course, we also expect the media that the media will operate within the limit of what the law allows. So when you look at it from both angles, you discover that no government can actually operate democratically by muzzling the press, and press cannot actually operate rightly without observing the law. So we are in a community that the press is actually supporting the government, and the government by its own must also try as much as possible to respect the press. So if by any chance we have a situation where the government is seen to have continued to muzzle the press, then I doubt whether we can cause.
We seem to have lost his audio there. We'll try to make connection with him. That is Dotun Ojo. He's a public affairs analyst and was just talking to us about press freedom. Dotun, I understand you're back now. We lost you there for a second. But I mean, you're talking about press freedom, democracy, how the intersectionality between the two. But I also, just for the benefit of our viewers, for at home, how does the arrest of PIDOM's, Nigeria impact press freedom and whistleblowing in the country? I mean, is whistleblowing a crime to begin with?
No, whistleblowing in itself is not a crime. But when the government, and I have to quickly point out at this point in time, that at every point in time, when you get to any land, what is a crime is not defined by the people. It's usually defined by the government. So it puts pressure on everybody to be very, very careful. So whistleblowing in itself is not a crime, but when government with a crime around leaking of sensitive governmental document and reporting issues that have to do with security, then it's an issue. What I'm saying in essence is that, and I want this to be very, very clear, if we want to operate a democracy, we must be clear about the kind of freedom we give to the press, because the press in every community takes the form of that society. What I mean is that if you are in a democratic society, then your press really must be free. And we may be speaking to what Peter Obi is saying today, but beyond what Peter Obi is even saying is an important issue of the way the international community will perceive us if we come across as a community or a country that is actually Muslim people that have divergent views from our own view. You remember during the time of protest, it's the same way the government came across to people as if they do not want anybody in the community to criticize them. in any way. And I think that's what they are gradually extending to the press. But again, we must sound a note of warning that the essence of press freedom is to serve the community and not to serve some individuals who are hiding under. Because for me now, before anybody can actually be called a journalist, he must be identified. So, and I do not want a situation where we continue to fight for faceless people. We must be able to look at it from both the right and the left angle. Who is this person that is involved? What is the crime? The government will be able to explain. Because we've seen situation, I think it happened in Egypt, China, and some other places, where foreigners actually disguise themselves to cause some kind of crisis within the country.
Dotun, but this person, but PIDOM Nigeria has been, but although we don't have his identity in terms of photograph, but the truth of the matter is he's Nigerian. There's no foreigner who's fronting to be PIDOM. He is Nigerian. He was in Lagos, I think, or Abuja, correct me if I'm wrong, but he was in Nigeria when he was taken or arrested and now in the custody of the security agencies. And that's what we know. Now, when you look at all of the things that he's been held for, one of them is whistleblowing, but particularly leaking government secrets. That's what they say those are the charges are. And so if we're sticking to that, what then does that mean for press freedom? Because whistleblowing in and of itself is calling to attention issues that affect, whether it's transparency and accountability. That's what it is. So how then if you put press into this, if you say he's not a journalist, he's just a whistleblower, whistleblowers do come to the press. They come to the press with information that matters when it comes to governance and transparency and accountability. Then how then do we struck and draw the line to safeguard a press freedom then?
Okay, I think you're not getting the point I'm trying to make. The point I'm trying to make is that I said it, that government must not come across as an entity that is trying to muzzle the press, and we have to be very, very clear on that. Unfortunately, what constitutes national security can actually only be defined by the government. So that has given the government an upper hand in terms of defining what can be reported and what cannot be reported. Because there's been this argument back and forth about the issue of human rights and national security. And we have weighed it often, and we have come to the conclusion, and when I say we, I mean opinion holders and leaders in the community, that most often that the issue of national security may actually come first when you're talking about protecting your government, protecting your people in the 21st century. But all of that being said, it is the responsibility of government to give its community an opportunity to criticize it at every point in time. So I do not want to believe, or I do not want to accept the fact that the government is after PIDOM today because it's speaking against its policies or revealing some sensitive secret. I just want a level playground for all journalists to be able to practice. But within that context too, we must remind ourselves that there are laws in the land that guide the operation. There are ethical standards that guide the operation of media practitioners, and these laws and ethical practices must be respected.
Well, I mean, it's no secret that Nigerian government, whether democratic or military, have struggled with dissent and the freedom of expression and even press freedom in and of itself. But Dotun, many thanks for doing this with us. We appreciate you for coming on.